Let me start with a statement that will probably upset a lot of men. Most women don't fall in love with you because of what you say or even what you buy them. They fall in love with you because of the things you do without being told. Sounds simple, right? But here's the truth that most men never realize. If a woman has to ask for respect, for attention, or for effort, she's already halfway out the door. And this is why so many men are confused about modern relationships. They believe grand gestures, expensive gifts, or fancy words are what sweep women off their feet. Wrong. What actually makes a woman fall and fall hard is when you consistently show through your actions that you understand what she values without needing a reminder. Now, here's where it gets controversial. Women secretly test men all the time, not with games or manipulation, but with silence. When she doesn't tell you she had a long day, yet you notice her mood and take action, that's when you win. When you step up in small ways without her instructions, that's when she feels safe, respected, and drawn to you. Most men never pass these silent tests because they are too focused on themselves. This video is not about telling you to become a people pleaser or to bend over backward for women. No, it's about learning how to act with awareness, strength, and initiative. Because if you can master this, you'll not only stand out from 90% of men out there, but you'll also experience a kind of loyalty and attraction from women that money, looks, or charm alone could never buy. 1. Notice the small things. Here's a truth most men don't want to hear. Women don't fall for the guy who only shows up big once in a while. They fall for the man who notices the details no one else sees. Most men think being a good partner is about birthdays, anniversaries, or saying the right thing during arguments. But here's the controversial part. Those grand moments mean very little if you ignore the small ones. Why? Because the small things reveal your true awareness, they prove whether you are actually paying attention or just going through motions. When a woman doesn't have to tell you she changed her hairstyle, when she doesn't have to remind you of something she mentioned last week, or when you notice she looks tired and offer to carry a small burden without her asking, that's when she feels truly seen. And feeling seen is what makes her fall hard. Think about it. Anyone can buy flowers on Valentine's Day, that's expected. But very few men can notice that her favorite snack is running low and pick it up without being told. That's not about money. It's not about grand gestures. It's about showing that you are present, and presence is rare. Men often underestimate how powerful observation is. A man who notices small changes in her mood, her routine, or even her silence communicates something deeper than words. I care enough to pay attention. Women crave that level of awareness because it separates leaders from followers. Now, some men push back here. They say, that's too much work, or why should I do all that? And that's exactly why most men fail. Paying attention doesn't make you weak. It makes you stand out. The majority of men are blind to detail, too distracted by themselves to realize that noticing is free but priceless. Imagine this. She mentioned in passing last week that she has a presentation at work. She never brought it up again. The day arrives and you text her in the morning. I know you've got that presentation today on. You'll crush it. She didn't remind you, she didn't ask you, but you remembered. That small gesture carries 10 times the weight of any last-minute bouquet. The truth is simple. Men who notice the small things without being asked create an emotional safety net women can't walk away from. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. And if you learn to master this, you'll be the man she remembers, even in a room full of others trying to impress her. 2. Lead without controlling. Here's something that will shock many men. Women don't actually want to be in charge of everything. They don't want to constantly make the plans, carry the vision, or always initiate direction. What they do want, however, is a man who can take the lead without acting like a dictator. And this is where most men go wrong. Some men confuse leadership with control. They think being a leader means barking orders, shutting down her ideas, or always insisting on their way. That's not leadership. That's insecurity dressed up as authority. Real leadership is different. It's about having clarity, taking initiative, and guiding with confidence while still leaving space for her voice. Women fall hard for men who take charge in subtle but decisive ways. For example, deciding on the restaurant instead of saying, I don't know, you pick. That simple move removes unnecessary pressure from her shoulders. Or taking responsibility when plans go wrong instead of blaming others. These small actions communicate strength, and strength without arrogance is magnetic. Here's the controversial part. Most women are tired of indecisive men. They're tired of men who constantly say, whatever you want, or I don't care. They're tired because it puts the entire emotional and mental load on them. Women respect men who can make choices, not choices that suffocate them, but choices that bring stability. Leading without controlling also means knowing when to listen. A strong man leads, but he's not afraid to adapt. He doesn't bulldoze through her perspective. Instead, he weighs it and then makes the final call with confidence. That balance is rare, and when a woman sees it, she feels both secure and respected. Imagine this. You're planning a simple weekend outing. Instead of asking her 10 times where she wants to go, you say, I've checked out this new place. I think you'll love it. Let's go around 3. She didn't have to plan, she didn't have to beg you to decide, and she didn't feel controlled. She simply felt taken care of. That's the essence. Leadership without control is initiative with respect. Women fall hard for men who can step forward with direction, but never make them feel like prisoners in their own lives. When you master this balance, you're no longer just another guy. You're the man she trusts to guide her without silencing her. 3. Protect without bragging. One of the biggest mistakes men make today is confusing protection with performance. Too many men think that protecting a woman means loudly announcing what they would do in a dangerous situation, flexing about how tough they are, or exaggerating about how they could handle anyone who disrespects her. But real protection isn't loud, it isn't boastful, and it doesn't need an audience. In fact, the louder you brag about what you would do, the more it shows you probably wouldn't do much when the moment actually comes. What women fall for is subtle, consistent protection that doesn't require a speech. It's the quiet confidence of a man who knows how to create safety without making a show out of it. And here's the controversial truth. Women notice when a man makes them feel exposed versus when he makes them feel secure. Most men are so focused on proving themselves that they don't realize bragging about protection actually highlights insecurity, not strength. Protection without bragging looks like presence. It's about being aware of your surroundings, carrying yourself in a way that naturally makes her feel at ease, and showing that if something were to happen, you'd handle it without hesitation. Not because you announced it, but because it's simply who you are. Women aren't impressed by loud promises. They're impressed when your actions speak so clearly that you don't have to promise anything. And here's where it gets even more relatable. Think about how you feel when you're with someone who has your back, whether it's a close friend, a sibling, or even a mentor. You don't need them to constantly remind you they'd protect you. You just know because of the way they carry themselves and how they step in when needed. That's the exact same sense women crave. The comfort of knowing you're not just there physically, but mentally and emotionally prepared to look out for them. Real protection also goes beyond physical safety. It's protecting her dignity when others speak poorly of her. It's protecting her trust by not exposing her personal struggles to the world. It's protecting her peace by being dependable, not another source of chaos in her life. These forms of protection don't require words. They require discipline, consistency, and character. When men learn to protect without bragging, they discover something powerful. Women naturally lean toward them because true safety is rare. In a world where many men talk big but act small, the one who quietly creates security becomes unforgettable. 4. Respect her time as much as yours. Here's a harsh reality many men need to wake up to. Too many of you respect your own time far more than you respect hers. You expect her to be patient when you're late, to understand when you get too busy, and to accept excuses when you fail to show up fully. But the moment she does the same, you get irritated, you call it disrespect, and you start questioning her commitment. That double standard is exactly why a lot of men lose good women without even realizing it. Let's be brutally honest. Respect for time is a respect for the person. If you constantly cancel plans last minute, make her wait hours for you, or act like her schedule should bend around yours, you are sending one loud message. My world matters more than yours. And whether you mean it or not, that's exactly how she'll feel. Women fall hard for men who recognize that her hours, her energy, and her commitments are just as valuable as their own. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Life happens, emergencies come up. But if being late, rescheduling, or forgetting is your pattern, then you're showing a lack of discipline and a lack of respect. And here's the tough pill to swallow. No woman wants to build a future with a man who can't even manage his own time. If you can't respect a 7 p.m. dinner date, how will you handle the bigger responsibilities that come with marriage, children, or business? Men, you need to wake up to this. Stop thinking your hustle or your personal goals automatically excuse poor treatment of her time. In reality, it's often the opposite. A man who can balance ambition with reliability is far more attractive than the one who is too busy to show up. Because let's be real, if you truly wanted to, you would. Respecting her time means being intentional. If you set a time, keep it. If you're running late, communicate before she has to ask. If you're too busy this week, be honest early, not after she's already waiting. These small acts show maturity, and maturity is magnetic. At the end of the day, your time is not more valuable than hers. A man who understands this separates himself instantly from the rest. Because while many men still think she'll tolerate being treated like a second option, the truth is she won't. And the day she walks away, you'll realize too late that all she wanted was simple respect. 5. Listen without fixing everything. Men, here's where many of you keep shooting yourselves in the foot. You don't actually listen, you troubleshoot. The moment a woman starts talking about her problems, you immediately jump into solution mode, offering fixes, steps, and strategies. While you might think you're helping, what she often hears is that you don't have the patience to simply hear her out. And this is why many women feel unheard, even when you've spent 10 minutes telling her exactly what she should do. Here's the controversial truth. Women don't always need a mechanic for their emotions. Sometimes they just need space to express themselves without being interrupted, corrected, or fixed. And this doesn't make them weak, irrational, or overly emotional. It makes them human. The problem is that too many men treat every conversation like a problem to solve instead of an opportunity to connect. Listening without fixing requires discipline. It means silencing the urge to prove how smart you are. It means resisting the temptation to cut her off with quick answers. It means being present enough to let her fully unpack her thoughts, even if you already know the answer. That's not weakness. That's strength. Because only a confident man can sit in silence and let her feel safe enough to share. And let's be clear, there are times she will want your solutions, but you'll know when, because she'll ask. If she hasn't asked, your job is simple. Listen, nod, acknowledge, and show that you care enough to let her speak. That's what makes her feel valued. That's what makes her trust you. Think about it. How often have you felt dismissed when someone rushed to solve your issue before you even finished explaining? It's frustrating, isn't it? You don't want a fixer in that moment. You want someone who respects your perspective enough to hear it all. That's exactly how women feel when you stop listening halfway and start fixing. Men need to wake up to this. Listening is not passive, it's active work. It requires patience, focus, and emotional maturity. And the men who master it stand out because they give women something extremely rare: the feeling of being genuinely understood. At the end of the day, you don't win a woman's heart by constantly showing how fast you can solve problems. You win it by showing that her voice matters to you, even when no solutions are needed. That kind of listening creates connection, and connection is what makes women fall harder than any quick fix ever will. 6. Stay calm. When she tests you men, let's be honest. One of the biggest challenges in relationships is dealing with those moments when she pushes your buttons, questions your reactions, or throws words at you that sting. And here's the truth many of you don't want to hear. Those moments are not always about the argument itself. They're about testing your stability. Women, whether they admit it or not, are constantly looking to see if you're steady. Not because they enjoy conflict, but because they want to know if they can trust your emotional strength. When you explode at every little thing, when you get defensive at the smallest criticism, or when you fold under pressure, you're showing her something she cannot ignore. You're unstable. And instability, no matter how good you look or how much money you make, is deeply unattractive. This doesn't mean women are out to make your life miserable. It means they want to know if you're the kind of man who can handle life without breaking down every time it gets tough. If you lose your cool over small disagreements, how will you handle bigger storms? If you can't control your anger in a heated moment, how will you provide safety when life throws real challenges your way? Staying calm doesn't mean being passive or letting disrespect slide. It means holding your composure, keeping your voice steady, and showing that you're not easily shaken. It's about proving that your emotions don't control you. You control them, and that calmness, it's magnetic. It reassures her that you're someone she can lean on, someone who won't crumble the second things get uncomfortable. Every man knows the frustration of being tested, whether it's through silence, sarcasm, or words meant to get under your skin. But instead of reacting like a boy who can't control himself, you need to respond like a man who understands the bigger picture. Losing your temper may feel powerful in the moment, but it destroys trust in the long run. Calmness, on the other hand, builds it. Here's the reality: life is full of pressure, conflict, and moments where things won't go your way. If you can't stay calm with the person you claim to love, you'll struggle everywhere else. But if you master this, if you show that no test can shake your foundation, you separate yourself instantly from the majority of men. Because at the end of the day, women don't fall for the loudest man in the room or the quickest to argue. They fall for the one who can keep his cool when the fire is hottest. That's real strength. 7. Show discipline in your own life. Here's something men don't hear enough: discipline is far more attractive than charm. You can have the best jokes, the smoothest words, or even the sharpest looks. But if you lack self control, women see right through you. And here's the part that stings: a man who cannot discipline himself cannot lead, cannot protect, and cannot be trusted long term. Discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about showing consistency. It's about proving that you can manage your time, your energy, and your habits. Women don't fall for men who promise big but never follow through. They fall for the man who actually does what he says he'll do day after day without excuses. That kind of reliability is rare, and rare always stands out. Think about it. If you constantly complain about wanting success but spend every night wasting hours on distractions, what does that show? If you say you'll change bad habits but never take the first step, what does that reveal? Women see that. They notice when you lack the discipline to control your health, your money, your emotions, or even your daily routines. And it sends a loud message: I can't even manage myself, so how could I possibly manage us? This is where many men need to wake up. You can't expect respect if your life is falling apart because of your own lack of control. You can't demand loyalty if you're not even loyal to your own goals. Women are drawn to men who take themselves seriously, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that shows they value their potential enough to live with focus. Discipline also creates trust without words. When she sees that you keep your commitments, that you don't fold under laziness, and that you live by standards you actually enforce, she doesn't have to wonder about your future. She already knows you're a man of structure, and that knowledge gives her the kind of security that money or good looks can't buy. Here's the challenge: stop making excuses. Stop hiding behind "I'll start tomorrow." Stop expecting her to respect you when you don't respect your own time, your own body, or your own word. Women don't fall for men who live carelessly. They fall for the man who has mastered himself. At the end of the day, your discipline, or your lack of it, speaks louder than anything you claim to be. And if you want to be the kind of man women admire, you need to show through your lifestyle that you can lead yourself first. 8. Value principles over popular opinion. Men today are drowning in the need to be liked. Too many bend their words, their values, and even their masculinity just to avoid backlash or to fit in with what's popular. But here's the truth you need to hear: women don't fall hard for men who follow the crowd. They fall for men who stand firm on principles even when it's unpopular. Why? Because principles are proof of strength. Popular opinion changes every other week, but principles remain steady. A man who lives by principles shows he's not easily swayed, not desperate for approval, and not afraid to walk alone if necessary. That stability is rare, and women know that if you stand firm against outside pressure, you'll also stand firm for her when it matters most. The problem is that too many men are terrified of being disliked. They nod along to things they don't believe in. They stay silent when they should speak up. They chase trends, mimic others, and avoid confrontation at all costs. And what they don't realize is that this constant need for approval makes them forgettable. You cannot lead or inspire respect when your backbone bends at every opinion. Principles don't mean being stubborn for no reason. They mean knowing what you believe, what you stand for, and what you will never compromise on. They mean living by standards you've chosen, not ones handed to you by society or social media. And here's the part men need to wake up to. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, and she'll notice. Imagine you're out with friends and everyone is mocking a certain group of people to get a laugh. Instead of laughing along, you calmly say, "That's not cool. Let's switch the topic." You didn't shout, you didn't try to fight anyone, but you stood firm on principle. She notices that. And in her mind, you've just shown her that your character matters more than fitting in. That moment sticks with her far longer than any joke you could have cracked. At the end of the day, women fall hard for men who refuse to sell out their values for popularity. Because principles build trust, and trust is the foundation of real attraction. If you want to separate yourself from the masses, stop chasing the comfort of approval, stand on principles or back per spool, and watch how she respects you more for it. 9. Stand up for her in public, correct her in private. Here's where many men lose respect without even realizing it. They don't know when to stand beside their woman and when to address her mistakes. Too often, men embarrass their partners in front of others by correcting them harshly, making jokes at their expense, or failing to defend them when others cross the line. What they don't understand is this: a woman falls deeply for the man who protects her dignity in public, but still has the strength to hold her accountable in private. Public loyalty is non negotiable. If someone disrespects her, you don't stay silent. If someone tries to undermine her, you don't laugh along. Your job is to make it clear that disrespect toward her is disrespect toward you. That doesn't mean you need to pick fights or create unnecessary drama. It means you carry yourself with enough confidence to set boundaries without hesitation. When she sees you stand up for her, she doesn't just feel loved, she feels safe. But here's the controversial twist: standing up for her doesn't mean letting her walk all over you either. Women respect men who can draw lines and give correction, just not in front of an audience. When you humiliate her in public, even over something small, you're not teaching her a lesson. You're destroying trust. You're making her feel exposed, and once that happens, attraction dies quietly. Correction, when needed, should always be private. That's where you show balance. That you're not afraid to address issues, but you respect her enough not to do it in front of others. Publicly, she should feel like you're on her team no matter what. Privately, she should know you'll be honest and firm when things need to be addressed. That combination is what creates real respect. Imagine you're at a dinner and she interrupts you in a way that felt dismissive. Instead of snapping at her or throwing shade in front of everyone, you finish the evening smoothly. Later, when it's just the two of you, you calmly say, "I didn't appreciate how that came across. Let's not do that again." She hears you, she respects you, and most importantly, she trusts that you'll never embarrass her for the sake of your ego. The truth is simple: women fall hard for men who balance loyalty with leadership. Protect her image in public, protect the relationship in private, do both, and she'll never forget the kind of man you are. 10. Give without keeping score. One of the most unattractive habits a man can have is turning every act of giving into a transaction. Too many men treat relationships like a scoreboard. I did this for you, so you owe me that. But here's the truth: women don't fall for men who constantly remind them of what they've done. They fall for men who give freely without measuring what they're getting back in return. Giving without keeping score doesn't mean being a pushover. It doesn't mean doing everything for her while ignoring yourself. What it does mean is this: when you choose to give, you give from a place of strength, not desperation. You do it because it reflects your character, not because you're waiting for repayment. That kind of giving feels secure, and security is magnetic. The scoreboard mindset is dangerous because it exposes insecurity. When a man constantly tallies up his efforts, what he's really saying is, "I don't believe I'm enough unless I can prove it." And women can sense that energy. It doesn't feel like love, it feels like pressure. Pressure doesn't build connection, it destroys it. Here's the controversial part: giving without strings attached actually makes you more respected, not less. It shows confidence. It shows that you have abundance, not scarcity. And most importantly, it proves that you understand the long game, that relationships thrive not on transactions, but on trust. Imagine this. You take time out of your busy day to help her with something she's stressed about. Later, instead of saying, "See what I did for you? You should appreciate me more," you say nothing. You simply let the action speak. Over time, that quiet consistency builds loyalty and admiration that no demand could ever create. At the end of the day, real men give without keeping receipts. They understand that love isn't measured in favors owed, but in the trust built when you do something simply because you wanted to. Women fall hard for that kind of strength. Conclusion. Let me leave you with something most men will hate to hear. A woman falling in love with you has less to do with how much you love her and more to do with how much she respects you. You can pour out affection, you can say all the right words, you can even sacrifice for her, but if she doesn't respect the man you are, none of it will matter. And that's where most men fail. They confuse love with respect. Here's the raw truth. Women can love you and still leave you, but they will never leave a man they truly respect. Respect is built through your actions, your consistency, your discipline, and the way you carry yourself without needing her to guide every move. That's why everything we've talked about today matters because each one of those actions builds respect without you having to beg for it. Now, I know this will spark debate. Some of you will agree, others will fight it. That's fine. I want to hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you've struggled. Tell me where you've seen this play out in your own life, and I'll reach out. Let's build this conversation together, man to man, because the truth is, too many men are lost in relationships and need to wake up. And here's the cliffhanger. In the next video, I'm going to share one thing women secretly admire in men, even if they never admit it out loud. It's something most men overlook completely, but when you get it right, it changes everything.